Hi there, and welcome to the Deep Dive. So glad you're joining us.
Hello.
Today, we are diving into some really compelling source material specific excerpts from the novel The Demon of Dakar by Kjell Eriksson.
Yeah, and our mission here for you isn't really about reviewing the book itself, but more about treating these passages as well, our map, you could say.
Right.
We're going to extract the key events, the characters, the insights presented right here in these pages, just like we would with any other source material we look at.
That's exactly it. We're treating what happens in these excerpts as our facts for this deep dive. The goal is to help you quickly get a handle on this complex web of intersecting lives and conflicts that are depicted, from individuals just trying to make their way to those caught up in crime, and then the police in Uppsala, Sweden, trying to untangle it all.
It's definitely a complex narrative, and honestly, there are some truly surprising details kind of buried in here.
Okay, let's unpack this then. And the source, it starts us off with a really vivid image right away, doesn't it?
Absolutely. We meet Manuel, and that very first detail is this memory he has, letting coffee beans filter through his fingers as he arrives in Sweden,
Ah, yeah.
thinking about his mother, the mountains back home, feeling this sort of moment of pure happiness almost.
That image is powerful because it really sets up his underlying motivation, I think. Manuel's here with a clear purpose.
Right.
He needs to check on his brother, Patricio, who's in Norrtälje prison, and also, crucially, get answers and money about the death of his friend Angel.
Angel, who was involved in drug smuggling, apparently died, hit by a train while trying to escape the police.
Yeah.
That's the story Manuel has.
So his journey starts fueled by, family concern and this search for what was owed to his friend.
And we see Patricio inside Norrtälje. He's studying Swedish, he's getting money Manuel sends, but he's really grappling with this grim reality that he might never get home, might die there.
So Manuel goes to visit him. What's that visit like, according to the source?
Oh, it's tense, really tense. There are strict security procedures, lockers, personal searches, and a detail that really sticks with you. This police dog named Charlie.
Charlie?
Yeah, specifically trained to sniff for drogas, for drugs. Their conversation, it touches on Angel's death and that promised money. $10,000 promised. But only 11,000 pesos actually made it home. It just highlights the precariousness of it all, doesn't it? And the broken promises in that criminal world Angel was part of.
And while he's inside, the source notes Patricio is, kind of surprisingly, developing an interest in religion. That feels like a bit of a shift for him.
It does, yeah. It suggests maybe a search for meaning or, comfort within the prison walls. But then the narrative just takes this sharp turn.
Because Patricio escapes.
Exactly. Patricio gets out of Norrtälje prison with another inmate, Jose Franco. So he's driving, they're heading north, and they talk about maybe going towards Uppsala.
Even though it's risky.
Yeah, even though Jose warns him it's full of cops. Jose gives Patricio some cash, tells him to lie low, don't contact his friend right away because the police might be watching. It suggests the escape. Well, maybe it wasn't totally spontaneous, or at least had some outside help.
Interesting. And during this escape, Patricio's thoughts are described. What stands out there?
His thoughts reveal this sort of deeper layer of his identity. He's reflecting on his Zapotec heritage, themes of resistance, this burning desire to contribute something to his village back home. The source even mentions him thinking about violence against those who exploit them, remembering a man named Miguel being executed in their village. So he's not just a simple fugitive, he's carrying this strong cultural personal history that's driving him.
Meanwhile, Manuel's still focused on that money, Angel's money. He's trying to get it from the people Angel worked for, initially just called the fat one and the tall one.
Right, who the police later identify as Slobodan and Armas.
And this chase for the money leads Manuel to a critical confrontation. The source describes this encounter with Armas near the Firis River.
And in that moment, Manuel kills Armas.
Wow.
The source describes it as self-defense, but, the consequences are immediate and huge.
Absolutely. This single act just completely transforms Manuel's situation. He came looking for answers, for money, and now suddenly he's a fugitive wanted for murder.
Yeah, and the source highlights his internal struggle, right? Go to police. Or protect his brother, who's now also on the run.
He chooses Patricio.
He chooses to protect Patricio, which just pushes him deeper into that criminal world.
So driven by this, Manuel goes back to Uppsala. Why?
He's looking for Dakar restaurant. He figures Slobodan, the fat one, might be found there.
And in this kind of twist of fate, he ends up getting a job there as a dishwasher.
Yeah. It's incredible. He's taking this incredibly mundane job while secretly on this incredibly dangerous mission. The source gives us his first impressions of the place, the manager.
But his desperation continues. The source tells us he then steals drugs from Slobodan's cottage.
He justifies it to himself. It's a way to punish Slobodan, but also to secure the money Patricio needs so desperately. He guesses the 2 kilos are worth maybe $50,000 to Slobodan.
But the street value?
He notes the market value could be closer to 1 million Swedish kroner. It just shows the scale of the operation he's stumbled into.
He tries to use the stolen drugs as leverage, right? Offers them back to Slobodan in exchange for money for Patricio.
Yeah, but Slobodan just refuses. I mean, from his point of view, why would he buy back something he thinks is already his? So that negotiation just falls flat.
Amidst all this chaos, Manuel and Patricio actually manage to reunite after the escape. Where do they end up hiding?
They find a spot in the forest near Uppsala and just camp out.
Mm.
And despite how precarious everything is, the source describes Patricio's joy in that moment. He compares it to sleeping in the mountains back home.
A human moment.
A brief human moment of connection, yeah, right in the middle of all the danger.
So they need to get out of Sweden. What's the escape plan they come up with?
It's complicated and expensive.
Yeah.
The idea is Patricio uses Manuel's passport to fly from Orlando Airport. Manuel would use fake passports names Abel and Carlos Morales.
Okay.
They arrange a driver through a contact Ramon for $3,000. That's a lot of money. Highlights the cost of trying to operate outside the law.
And this plan leads us to where Manuel's path intersects, maybe unexpectedly, with another key life that's presented in these sources.
Right. Manuel has this quite emotional conversation with Eva at Dakar restaurant where they both work. He reveals his situation, tells her he's wanted by the police, plans to leave.
And Eva gives him a crucial warning.
A really crucial warning. She tells him the police are likely watching Orlando Airport.
Ah, game changer.
Totally. Manuel realizes the airport plan is blown, it's compromised. So that detailed escape plan is abandoned. And the source later notes their rental car is found abandoned in Roadbro.
So they got away from there, at least?
Indicating they managed to evade capture at that point, yes.
Okay, let's pivot then to our second major thread from these sources. The lives connected through this Uppsala restaurant scene.
Yeah, and at the center is Slobodan Anderson. He's this ambitious restaurant owner behind places like Lido, Pigalle, Dakar, Alhambra.
And the source gives us that great detail about Lido's bar.
Oh, yeah. The 11-meter zinc bar where customers used to engrave their orders with screwdrivers. It paints such a picture of his business history, doesn't it?
It really does. He's also connected to Armas, the man Manuel killed, business dealings, arguments.
Mm-hmm. And then there's Eva Willman. The source introduces her as someone who's been recently laid off, just trying to find some stability, taking a job as a waitress at Dakar.
Her personal life is quite prominent, too.
Very much so. Her divorce from Jürgen, raising 2 sons, Patrick and Hugo, and this growing worry about her son Patrick's friend Zero, who seems to be getting into trouble.
We get a glimpse into the atmosphere and the dynamics in the Dakar kitchen as well.
We do. There's Fio, described as encouraging, kind. Donald, the expert chef, but complicated, dislikes change. Tessie. And Gonzo, who got fired after clashing with Armas and apparently mutters about Slobodan and Armas being fascists.
Wow.
These little details really flesh out the environment Eva's walked into.
And Eva also talks with her colleague Helen, right? About everyday stuff.
Yeah, just normal workplace chat, job prospects, dreaming about travel to the Caribbean islands, Helen's relationship problems. It shows Eva trying to build this new, stable life for herself.
And her experience at Dakar starts nervously, but she starts to find her feet.
Yeah, she finds some satisfaction, even though it's physically demanding, like biking to work. She connects with Tessie and Feo. And Slobodan seems to see potential in her, mentions increasing her salary if she works out, just like he did for Tessie.
And this is where Manuel, working as the dishwasher, comes into her orbit.
Exactly. Gets nicknamed Mano by Feo and Donald. He talks a bit about his past, working in California. There's a Grapes of Wrath reference. And despite his secret mission, the source highlights this unexpected kindness he finds in the Dakar kitchen. It's such a stark contrast to the other world he's navigating.
We also see Slobodan kind of out of his element one night, getting drunk at Dakar.
Yeah, and needing Feo and Manuel to help him home. Eva witnesses this, and her reaction's interesting. She sees his vulnerability, wonders if maybe it's grief over Armas's death. It adds a layer to him.
And this leads to that key conversation between Eva and Manuel.
Yes. He shares bits of his story, his village, California, his family. The source describes Eva being really fascinated by him and notes this mutual sense of connection.
She even asks if he's married.
She does. And the source explicitly says Manuel perceives her interest. It feels like this potential moment of real human connection, sort of outside the whole crime narrative.
But that potential connection is just shattered.
Completely shattered. Eva's perspective shifts dramatically when she learns about Slobodan's arrest, sees the news reports linking Dakar to a cocaine ring.
She must be devastated.
Totally disillusioned. She's afraid of losing her job, worried about her son's reactions, and the source really highlights her feeling of shame. Shame about having been attracted to Manuel, who she now believes is just a drug pusher with a felon for a brother.
Which brings us neatly to our third major thread in the sources. The police investigation that starts tying all these seemingly separate things together.
And leading that investigation is Detective Ann Lindell. The case kicks off with the discovery of a body in the Fires River, later identified as Armas, the man Manuel killed. The source is pretty detailed here.
What are the crucial details about the discovery?
Well, he had an ice wound, and crucially, he bled to death before going into the water. His physical description is noted, but the most chilling detail. A section of skin, about 5 centimeters across, had been removed from his upper right arm.
Where a tattoo had been.
Exactly, right where a tattoo had been.
Wow! Removing a tattoo like that, what does that immediately signal to the police?
Well, Lindell sees two main possibilities straight away. Either the killer wanted to make identification harder, or the tattoo itself was directly linked to the killer, or maybe the motive.
So not random.
Definitely not random. This act tells them this is deeply personal.
The source introduces us to Lindell's team too. Ottoson, Fredrickson, Haver, who's described with a bit of smugness,
Yeah.
Barbara Lidlendahl, dealing with tiredness, Sammy Nilsson, very focused, Schonel, and others. Each adds a different dynamic to the investigation.
And while they're investigating the river murder, they're also looking into a separate stabbing incident over in Savia. The victim there is Ollie Sidstrom, who's linked to drugs, and a guy named Konrad Rosenberg.
Okay, and how does Rosenberg connect back to our other threads?
Rosenberg is a customer at Dakar, knows Slobodan, and he was friends with Sidstrom, the stabbing victim. The source notes Rosenberg was clearly shaken by the stabbing news, and apparently even his car got vandalized.
So the web starts to form.
Exactly. The drug world, the restaurant world, it's starting to overlap.
The police interview Slobodan Anderson then. How does that go?
They press him about Armas, his activities. Slobodan denies knowing anything about criminal involvement. But the source points out his genuine surprise, maybe confusion, when Lindell confronts him with the fact that the killer skinned Armas to remove the tattoo.
That detail seems to hit him.
It really seems to genuinely shock him, yeah.
So the investigation expands. They search Armas's apartment, which is in the same building as Slobodan's and Slobodan's restaurants.
And they find something significant at the Alhambra office.
Yeah.
Cocaine.
Uh-huh.
Slobodan claims he was set up, but they find prints, which obviously adds to the evidence against him.
There's also a surprising find in Armas's apartment by Officer Chanel of videotape.
This is quite a twist. On the tape is a man who looks exactly like Armas. He's identified as Anthony, possibly Armas's son, described as an actor, including in porn films.
Oh, wow.
And he seems focused on claiming his inheritance. This just throws a whole new possible motives, a new angle into the case.
So how do they finally confirm Armas's identity for sure, given the missing tattoo?
They identify the remaining part of the tattoo design. It's Quetzalcoatl, the feathered snake.
It's so cool.
Yeah, a key detail. They managed to contact a tattoo artist back in Mexico, Sammy Ramirez, who actually remembers giving Armas that specific tattoo years ago.
And this Mexican connection, it fuels Lindell's thinking about the motive for removing the tattoo, doesn't it?
Exactly. She starts leaning towards a personal motive, maybe revenge tied to Armas's past in Mexico. Did he leave someone behind? A relationship, maybe a child? Is a relative now seeking justice? That Quetzalcoatl symbol could be tied to whatever happened back then, and maybe to the killer.
And at some point, the police realize the Alavez brothers and Jose Franco have escaped from Nortelia prison.
And boom, the connection is made. They link the escapees to Armas' murder. They get info on Manuel from Mexico, arrested once for disturbance of the peace, but not known to narcotics police there. This starts building a picture of who Manuel is, or at least who he was known to be.
They search for the escapees, they review prison security footage. What do they make of the escape itself?
Well, the footage suggests Patricio's escape might have been more spontaneous, maybe less planned from the inside.
Yeah.
Although they still suspect Manuel might have given instructions during his visit.
And they find the campsite by the Firis River where Armas was actually killed.
Right, Lugnet.
What kind of evidence turns up there?
Traces, like a bullet lodged in a tree, blood stains. This confirms their theory. Armas was killed right there, at that spot, before his body was put in the river.
The police also interview Zero, the kid Eva's son hangs out with, and his brother Dogan. This links back to the Sevilla stabbing.
Yeah, Zero is linked to Sidstrom, the victim, and the drug dealing. He admits he was selling drugs for someone, but claims he doesn't know who was really behind it all.
And Sammy Nelson's approach here is interesting.
It is. He sort of suggests to Zero and Dugan that because Zero's a juvenile, he won't go to jail for the scabbing itself, implying that cooperating about the drug operation could be good for him. It shows the police trying to navigate the realities of street-level crime to get to something bigger.
So the police are connecting Rosenberg, Sidstrom, Zero, all to drugs. But they're frustrated because they haven't caught the real perpetrator yet. Zero, despite his involvement in the stabbing, he's not the main target.
Exactly. They see the web, they see the connections, but they're struggling to get to the center of it, to the bigger players.
And their hunt for the Alves brothers continues after that airport plan falls through.
Right. The rental car found in Ropero becomes a clue. The police speculate on where they might have gone, maybe north, perhaps to an old closed cement foundry, or a mission house, or maybe a drug associate's place near Moncarbo.
And Lindell remains convinced Manuel was involved in planning the escape.
Yeah, she believes he played a central role, despite his quiet arrival. It just reinforces how pivotal he is to the whole sequence of events.
Okay, so when you step back and look at all these threads presented in the sources, Manuel's quest turning violent, Eva's life intersecting at Dakar, the police investigation pulling it all apart, how do they really weave together?
Well, it's Manuel's desperate actions, really. Trying to help his brother, trying to get that money for Angel's death.
Yeah.
That directly puts him into Slobodan and Armis's world, and that leads directly to Armis's death by the river.
And that single act becomes the catalyst for the whole police investigation.
Exactly. And that investigation, led by Lindell, starts pulling back the curtain on Slobodan's operations, his involvement in a drug trade, connecting him to other figures like Rosenberg and Sidstrom.
And Sidstrom's connection to Zero, that brings the police investigation uncomfortably close to Eva's own life through her son's friendship. It's quite the chain reaction.
It really is. And then you have that surprising human connection right there at Dakar. Manuel gets the job trying to find Slobodan, but he finds these moments of, well, kindness and this connection with Eva.
Only for it to be completely broken when the police investigation reveals who he really is, what he's done.
Yeah. Eva's journey in these excerpts is quite poignant, isn't it? She starts off just seeking stability after being laid off. She finds a job, makes connections, feels this pull towards Manuel.
And then it all comes trashing down.
All shattered by the news, the police presence. She feels this deep sense of disillusionment and shame about her attraction to him.
It's really a narrative where these seemingly separate actions driven by desperation or greed or just the need for a job, they create this incredibly complex, dangerous web. People get tangled up in ways they couldn't possibly have predicted.
And the sources give us these specific, sometimes quite surprising details that really bring this whole narrative to life for you, the listener.
Yes. Like that memory of the coffee beans filtering through Manuel's fingers right at the start. That chilling detail of the Quetzalcoatl tattoo and the act of removing it. The screwdrivers used for engraving orders at Lito's bar that glimpse into the history of Slobodan's world. Charlie, the police dog, just symbolizing that constant threat of detection.
The conversation about dreaming of Caribbean islands, contrasting so sharply with the harsh reality of their lives. Patricio's thoughts on his Zapotec identity and resistance.
The practical detail of the fake passports, and that unexpected kindness Manuel finds in the Dakar kitchen, of all places.
Those are the vivid nuggets, aren't they? They make the story presented in these excerpts really stick with you. They highlight the human element, the cultural backgrounds, the surprising contrasts, and just the brutal reality of the situation they're all in.
So you've seen how all these threads weave together. From Manuel's arrival and his desperate choices, through the lives intercepting at the restaurant, to the police meticulously piecing it all together. It all leads to that incredible final scene described in our source material.
Manuel is back in Mexico. He's in his village. and he sees a man.
A man who looks exactly like Armas, the man he killed, far away in Sweden. The source describes Manuel just staggering back, the image shocking him to his core.
It's such a powerful, unsettling moment to end on.
It certainly leaves you wondering, what does it mean to see the face of the man you killed so far from where it happened? Was it really him? Or, I don't know, something else entirely? What does that moment do to everything that came before it for Manuel? It leaves a lot for you to think about.